We are here with the Help Hope Heroes podcast.
Stephen Center, for me, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Recorded live at a homeless shelter.
I basically reinvented myself with the Stephen Center.
Our clients are the homeless, the addicted, those in poverty.
We fight the good fight.
Tear down some stigmas.
They taught me those life skills that I didn't have.
What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you?
If you come to the Stephen Center, you will be changed in a really good way.
Here we are with the Help Hope Heroes podcast, the Stephen Center podcast recorded live at a homeless shelter here in South Omaha. I am the host, Michael Murphy, marketing director here at Stephen Center, with co-hosts
Ryan McNeil.
Ryan McNeil is our marketing communications associate. Correct. Yep. And we are very pleased to have a special guest with us today, Brooke Matheson. Brooke, say hi. That's a very warm welcome. Say hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It really does mean a lot to us. This podcast is getting a lot of good traction out there, and it is proving to, in past podcasts when we've had former clients on and things like that, they get reached out to by people that are actually in need of help. So this is a great deal. Brooke is a case manager in our HERO program. HERO stands for Health, Empowerment, Responsibility, Opportunity. It is our intensive inpatient care for drug and alcohol treatment. Brooke, what does a case manager do at HERO?
Well, that's kind of it's hard to explain what a case manager does over at HERO. It's kind of a cross between peer support and helping with make appointments for them.
Okay, so but you're managing cases of who?
Clients.
Clients in the intensive inpatient treatment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. People that are starting in the treatment process.
Okay, and when did you first become aware of Stephen Center and the HERO program?
When I entered as a client myself in 2015.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were struggling with some addiction issues?
Yes.
Okay. And that means if we hired you, that means you successfully completed the HERO program and are a HERO graduate.
Yes.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that. About when did you graduate?
February 18th of 2016.
Oh, you know exactly when.
Yeah.
So it must be a big day in your life.
Yes.
And then shortly thereafter, you became an employee at Stephen Center.
Yes. Actually, it'll be a year tomorrow that I became an employee.
Applause. Applause. We're celebrating 1 year. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So we're just going to touch on this for a little bit, and then we're going to dive into Brooke. We're going to dive into your story. I'd like to know, just right off the bat, you know, do you find yourself now helping people that were in similar situations to you?
Yeah, I do a lot, actually.
And so can you just maybe describe what that's like? I mean, you're able to put yourself in their shoes, obviously.
Yeah, I am. A lot of people come in broken. A lot of people come in without their kids. They've burned a lot of bridges with their families, and when they see people that have succeeded in building those bridges back again, getting their kids back, it gives them hope to that they can succeed as well. And I don't know, it's just something I can help them with. And
so cool.
Yeah.
And remember, we got to be uncomfortably close to the microphone, so try to get a little closer. I know it's tough. So now that we got that little bit, we're going to come back to Stephen Center, but we first have to rewind.
Okay.
Brooke, when did your addiction begin?
When I was 12 years old.
Wow. So marijuana, what was it?
I started with marijuana.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And was it just like instant or kind of developed over time?
It was kind of developed over time. It wasn't an everyday thing at first, but then it became an everyday thing. And then it gradually progressed with other things.
Oh, what kind of other things?
Then it went to alcohol. Then it went to cocaine, pills, meth, anything you had, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Yeah. So it's kind of an addictive personality there?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you discovered through treatment? Or deep down you probably knew why you were addicted?
Oh, I knew. I
Yeah.
knew why I was addicted. I came to the conclusion that I was an addict and an alcoholic, and I was going to live my life that way. And I just kind of accepted it because I didn't think there was any help out there for me.
Do you think it could be attributed to mental illness? Like, have you ever been diagnosed with anything specific?
I don't. I mean, I have the common depression. I don't really have severe mental health, but I do think that addiction and mental health coincide with each other. But I personally don't have severe mental health. I've never been diagnosed with severe mental health, but I do have like the common depression, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, from the time I've spent around you, it's kind of hard to picture just because you're so bubbly and outgoing and stuff.
Yeah, you really
Yeah.
are. So looking back, I mean, at the time, did you recognize it as depression, and did you recognize the drug abuse as self-medication at that time? Or is it looking back now you see that that's what you were doing?
Looking back, I see that's what I was doing. At the time, I thought it was just what kids do.
Yeah.
I got sober when I was 25. And I'm still young. I'm still in my 20s. So, at the time, I thought it was just what high schoolers do, what 21-year-olds do. I really started seeing that it was an addiction after I had my kids. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop using, and I just kind of wanted, it got to a point where I didn't care if I lived or died. I was putting myself in really dangerous situations. I was putting my kids in really dangerous situations. And then that's when I realized that it was more of an addiction, when I couldn't put it down, and I was choosing that over everything else in my life. So that's when I realized it was an addiction. And I didn't realize that I was an alcoholic until I was in treatment and I started working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's when I really found out I was an alcoholic. And when I was working with my counselor at the Stevens Center is when I really, really realized that I wasn't just a normal drinker, that I was an alcoholic.
What are things your counselor, he or she, did to help you realize that?
Well, we really worked on the ways I would drink.
Okay.
We would look back at when I turned 21, how I'd go into a bar and how I would order my drinks, or if I would tell myself I'm just gonna drink one, and then leave, or what I would do if I drink before I leave the house, stuff like that.
So pre-gaming before the bar.
Yeah.
Alone, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of that. And, I don't think there was a day that I didn't have alcohol from the time I was 14 till I got pregnant with my son.
And how young were you when you got pregnant?
I was 22 when I had my son.
So good 8 years where you feel like, looking back, you were drinking every day.
Yeah. I can't remember a sober day between the time I was 14 till I found out I was pregnant with my son. So.
Wow. So I bet there's a lot of stories in between there.
Yeah.
Is there any that you would be comfortable sharing that somebody in the audience may relate to where they could say, man, maybe I do have a problem? Only if you're comfortable sharing one of those stories in that 8-year span,
Well, so, man, there's a lot of stories.
Is there any that stick out as a rock bottom?
So, well, I was lucky enough to have a lot of people that cared about me. So I never really got hurt a lot when I was out there. But there's one specifically that I remember. And so I'm from a really small town, so we'd go to a lot of small towns and drink. And my sister was always with me, so I always had someone somewhat sober around me. And I remember going to a bar, and I remember drinking one beer and a shot, and then I woke up in a totally different town on the bar at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I had no idea what happened between 7:30 p.m. till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And it turned out that someone roofied me.
Wow.
And they were trying to get me to go home with them, but the people around me wouldn't let that happen. So I mean, that's if I didn't have those people around me and I was by myself, I don't know what would have happened. So I'm grateful that I kind of had people watching out for me.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of nights like that where I don't remember
Blacked
what
out.
happened. And days would go by where I don't remember what would happen. So
wake up and keep drinking again.
mm-hmm.
And throughout these types of episodes, was there also drug use?
Oh, yeah.
So it was a mixture of cocaine and weed and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into any legal trouble as a result of it?
Yeah. When I was, February 23rd of 2015, I went to jail for 12 Class C felonies, all in a school zone.
12?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's possession of
9 were possession with intent to distribute.
So you had a lot of stuff on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kind of stuff?
Meth, marijuana, and then a bunch of pills.
Okay.
I mean, I could list them, but
So did you do time?
no, I took drug court.
Okay. Douglas County, Sarpy County, what?
Potawatomi County.
Potawatomi County.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about now, looking back, how do you feel about Potawatomi Drug Court?
It saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a felon.
The felonies are not on your record, and you had 12.
Yep, I do not have a felony on my record.
As far as I know, their belief is nonviolent criminals deserve that chance.
Right. Yep. Nonviolent criminals, it was, if they would have never gave me that chance, I think that I wouldn't have my kids in my life. If Pot County Drug Court would have never gave me the chance to take drug court, I would be back on the streets doing drugs and drinking, probably back in prison with a couple more charges. I would have never came to the Stevens Center. I would have never got treatment. I really don't think prison's the place for drug addicts and alcoholics. That's not my belief.
Yeah, they deserve that chance to rehabilitate, true rehabilitation.
Yes.
I've just noticed a theme since we started doing these podcasts that the most terrible day of someone's life, or so they think, is always like the start of their change, Like everybody, it sounds like a lot of people will start with legal trouble, and that's kind of what leads them to like their eventual sobriety and stuff like that.
Yes.
That wake-up call moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what's oddly enough, in a couple of the other interviews we've done, is they'll now say that's the best day of their life, or the most pivotal day of their life. Do you agree with that? The day you were caught with the 12 felonies.
I would say mine was about 2 weeks prior to that.
Why is that?
Because that's the day that I really asked for the help. I'm not a firm, I wasn't a firm believer of a higher power or God or any of that, even though I grew up in a religious home. And I remember the day where I fell to my knees in tears, asking for help from my higher power. And I didn't care if I lived or died. I didn't care how he helped me. I just wanted out of the life I lived, because I was in so much pain emotionally and internally that I was just ready to be done. And then 2 weeks later, I got raided, and that was my turning point. But I just remember being at my house for the first time with nobody there. It was quiet, and
So you used to have frequent visitors.
yeah. I mean, I lived in a trap house. My kids were always around people that were not safe for them. I never had a free moment by myself, and for the first time in probably 10 years, I had asked for help. And a lot of people like me that live in the drug world or the alcoholic world, we get arrested, we go to jail, we're like, God, just get me out of this, and I'll never do it again. And I wasn't that person. I didn't ask for help from anybody. I just took the consequence and went on with my life. And that day I just asked for help. And the day I got arrested with the charges that I had, the cop was like, Brooke, I arrested you 2 days ago and you were freaking out. What's different? And I said, my life's going to change whether I go to jail or probation. I said, this is my way out, and I need it. And nobody believed me, of course, but
Which kind of helps put a chip
Yeah.
on your shoulder, ready to prove them wrong, I hope.
yeah. But so it was about 2 weeks prior to that, because that's when I think I really surrendered and was done.
And it sounds like at that 2 weeks when you made that prayer or that request for help, let's say, you did have custody of your children.
Yep, I had full custody of both of them.
Immediately when you received the felonies, did you lose custody?
Yep.
or-
I lost custody of both children.
Yeah. And recently now, what's that situation?
With my son, me and his dad, we have joint custody, 50-50. We get along great.
Good.
There's anytime I want him, I can have him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. With my daughter, it's a battle. We have joint legal custody. She lives with her dad. Her dad and stepmom can provide for her more than I can. She's in a great spot.
Financially speaking.
Financially, yes, she's in a great school. You know, she's very well supported there. I get her every other weekend, every other week in the summer. Me and her dad don't get along the greatest, but I still do have custody rights.
Still in her life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good.
Yep. And they're young, so my kids never have to see me drink or use drugs as long as I stay doing what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
I'm working
Stay
a
doing
pro-
what I'm doing.
I'm
Working
working a
the
program.
12-step program?
Yep. I'm working a program of recovery.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is the first thought that comes to your mind when you wake up every morning right now?
Ugh. Don't be late to work.
Right?
Yeah. Do the next right thing.
Yeah.
I I don't get up and pray and read the books or whatever, but like I pray, I do the next right thing. I turn my will over to God. I help the next suffering alcoholic or addict the best way I can. That's what I do. Every morning I try to do what I think is the next right thing.
Did you ever see yourself working in the field you're working in? Or is it just like a happy accident?
I did. So about 2 years ago, that was probably 2.5 years ago. I realized this is the field I wanted to work in. Working at the Stevens Center was a happy accident. That was a happy accident, for sure.
So what's it like? Is your counselor still here, working here?
Yeah, she's my boss.
So what's that like? I mean, what does that do for your relationship as an employee, as a boss? Describe that relationship.
At first, it was scary. Like, she still had that, like, mom look to me. You know, like,
Well, yeah.
I don't know, like, she can see when something's wrong with me still.
Yeah.
But it's great because anytime that I have something going on with me, her door's always open.
Yeah.
It's like I get a free therapist, which is great. And that goes for any of the counselors. I can walk into any of the counselor's office, anybody here, really. I can go into anybody's office and say, look, this is what's going on. I need some advice. People that are in recovery themselves that work here, they kind of get me. So it's amazing. At first, I kind of feared her still, but now it's awesome. I love it.
Very reciprocal relationship there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be, I would imagine, important in your recovery now to have the opportunity to help others. Does that keeps you busy and focused on sobriety, obviously.
Yes.
You are now an example to others that are where you were
Yes.
at the very beginning stages of recovery. What's that mean to you in your heart, Brooke? Like, when you really think about it, everything you've been through, that day you asked for help, the day you got arrested, the loss of custody, now you got custody, and now every day you're making progress in the positive direction. Deep down, what does that mean to you, Brooke, as a person?
It's really hard to put into words what it means. It's it's an experience I never thought I'd experience.
Yeah.
And it's a gratitude I'd never, like, I wake up grateful that I get to be able to plant a seed. And I think about when I was in treatment, there was 2 people working at the center, and I kept telling myself I want to be just like them when I get the chance. And one of them still works there, Tracy,
Yeah.
and then Brenda.
Yep.
She's at the Franny now.
Doing hard work at the Sienna Francis house.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And those 2 were 2 of the biggest role models when I first came into treatment, and I just keep telling myself I'm going to be just like them when I grow up, you know.
Yeah.
And today I get to be them.
Yeah.
And I just get to keep striving to better myself. And I've never, like, it's a magical experience to be able to be a role model to somebody and to show, to be, oh man, it's just really hard to put into words, to just show people that it can be done.
Yeah.
You know, and just if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, it can be done. It doesn't matter where you were or what bottom you were at, it can be done. And there's been a lot of people that have come through the Stevens Center that I used to use with,
Yeah.
that have known me from my past, and they tell me, if you can do it, I can do it. And that's just something I will never take for granted, you know? It's just, gives me goosebumps.
I can see it in your eyes, and just when we talk, you know, she'll come over and visit to see what kind of Jolly Ranchers or candy we may have. She goes to the therapist event, comes to us for the sugar. Are you dreaming now?
Kinda. It's
Yeah,
a dream
dream,
come
yeah.
true, yeah.
Yeah. So you're already living the dream, but you still have these aspirations, right?
Mhm.
You can still work with people at the Hero Program to say, what should be my next step? You can look to people for guidance, and that's realistic guidance now. It's not just, you know,
Yeah,
a far off, unachievable thing.
right.
It's so great to see that. When did you graduate?
16.
February?
Yep.
So you were in for about a year in the program? 9 months?
2 days shy of 6 months.
2 days shy of 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something I'd like to talk about real quick, is that our Hero Program is a go at your own pace type of program. There's these 4 phases. There are phase 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah,
And you gradually proceed through these phases at different rates.
Yes.
Meaning, like, say it could take one person 30 days for phase 1. It could take another 60 days.
yes.
Talk to me about phase 1, because I've heard it's rather strict.
Yes.
What is so strict about phase 1?
So phase 1, you can't leave unless it's like a medical or a legal appointment. You have to go to programming all day,
Who do you go to get the note to say it's okay to leave?
myself or the other case
The
manager.
case manager, yeah. Okay. So you're
Yeah.
doing that for other people now.
Mhm.
Okay. Keep.
Yeah. I guess you do get a Croc membership, which is kind of like the, YMCA,
Yeah.
or it's like a gym membership.
It's a great facility
Yeah,
down there. It's amazing.
yeah,
If you
it's-
haven't checked it out, it's just down the street from us here in
Yeah.
South Omaha.
Right. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they offer a lot of different things. They even have church there, which is really
Yeah.
cool. So, you get a Croc membership, which is scheduled times. They have rules like you can't wear your hat or listen to music in certain areas. You have to do a AA meeting every day of the week. You can only smoke at certain times of the day, which a lot of people don't like, but can't use the phone until certain times. The boys
So
and girls have to
was
stay
that a tough
separated.
blackout period though, with the lack of technology, or what did you find that did for you to have a blackout on the technology?
Well, I needed it. I had nobody healthy in my life. I needed to cut everybody out. I wouldn't have succeeded if I kept talking to the people that I was talking to. And that's kind of why we do the blackout period or the phase 1, because only immediate family members that are healthy for you can come visit. And that
How do you quantify that? How do you know who's healthy for you? Is that something that you're able to tell your counselor?
yes and no.
Okay.
So a lot of times people that are on probation, like I know for myself, my probation officer, they like do background checks and stuff on family members.
Okay.
If they're on probation themselves, it's not usually a healthy family member.
Yeah. Prior convictions, maybe.
Yeah,
Even
prior
if they're not on
conviction.
probation, but if they had like a drug offense or
Yep.
something. Yeah.
Yep. And like at the Stevens Center, we tell them when they first come in, if your family's under the influence of any kind, we can tell them to leave.
Yep.
If we have suspicion of it, we can UA them or breathalyze them.
Your guests that visit you.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
Outside of work, who's your besides your 2 counselor, who's your biggest inspiration, like family or friend wise?
Outside of work?
Yeah.
Outside of people here at Stevens Center, right?
Yeah.
Do you mean recovery-wise or just anybody?
Yeah, like a mentor, right?
Yeah. Either or.
Mm.
If there's nobody, then there's nobody. But it's a good question.
I just asked because you said you're lucky to have a big support system. So I was
Yeah, you
just,
mentioned your sister kind of saved your butt on that one.
Yeah.
21-year-old binge drinking and
Yeah.
roofie experience. Sorry.
Yeah.
Experiment.
I was grateful to have her in my party days.
Yeah.
Very grateful. I would probably have to say my mom and dad.
Yeah.
They've never turned their back on me. I've done a lot of dirt.
Yeah.
But they've never given up, ever. So I'd probably have to say them.
yeah.
Way to go, mom and dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that's an important message to get out there to family members.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one thing that's very true is when we go out and speak in the community, 9 times out of 10 after I'm done talking about what Stevens Center does, I will be approached by somebody in the audience. They pull me to the side and they describe to me, whether it's their child, their niece, their nephew, cousin, older brother, whatever it is, somebody out there is struggling with addiction and most likely mental health as well.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for a place like our Hero program to have our co-occurring therapy,
Yep.
where our therapists are professionally licensed to treat people suffering from mental health and addiction at the same time. A lot of what we see is people self-medicating.
Yep.
Bipolar, self-medicating. They don't take the meds because they don't like the way they make them feel. And bipolar can be very manic, swings from positive to negative. And if they're self-medicating all the time with something that only makes them feel good, right, it becomes a downward spiral into addiction because then they're just even more dependent on that. So that happens a lot when we go out and talk in the community. So everybody can relate to that. So to the moms and dads out there, to the brothers and sisters out there, what can we say to them?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And, one thing that helped my mom a lot is she doesn't understand addiction.
Yeah.
She really didn't know how to help me because her mindset is it's illegal or why don't you just stop? And about a month after I came into the program, she started going to Al-Anon, and it really, really helped her. She still doesn't quite understand it a whole lot or understand maybe where my head is sometimes, but she gained a support group that goes through the same thing she does, and it really, really helped her a lot, and we have a better relationship because she's more supportive of me.
So even for somebody, like if I have a family member that's struggling with addiction and they're not in rehab, they're on the streets, I don't know where they're at, Al-Anon could still be helpful.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's because it helps you start to understand the mindset, hopefully.
Yes.
And that it's really not much you can do about
Right.
addiction issues,
Right.
in a sense.
Right. And there's other people that may have someone out there the same way. And it's just how to deal with how you feel and how to work through that process. And there's a 12-step program through Al-Anon too. Those 12 steps are miracle workers.
So interesting because our community is so great about having resources. And I think a lot of times when we talk about addiction, people think just the person that's addicted needs to seek help.
Right.
Nope. The family members that still want to help the person that's addicted, they should be asking for help. They should be reaching out to like people in, very similar situations.
Yes.
It's a great point to make.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for future Hero clients?
Or a brand newbie.
Um, fully surrender. Like take time and really work on it. And if you don't like the way your life is turning out, it's always going to be there. It's always out there waiting for you.
Yeah.
And if take 6 months, and if you don't like the way your life is, it's always there.
You'd be willing to bet that 6 months would do it?
Yeah.
6 months of true surrender,
Yeah.
not fake it till you make it. We've heard a lot of stories about
Yeah.
that where because of the legal problems, they want to get in. And a lot of people, did you have that mindset when you came in that was like, I'm going to do this thing and then probably go back to smoking some pot and drinking? And honestly, did you have that when you got here, or was it you had surrendered day one?
I had that mindset. I took drug court at first so I could still have my gun rights.
Yeah.
I mean, that's honestly why I took drug court. I didn't want to be a felon, so I could still have my gun rights. I like to hunt and stuff like that. And then I was in my first treatment center because Pot County sends you to a 30-day and then to the Stevens Center.
Okay.
And the 30-day was like, I don't know, it was a joke to me. I didn't really take it seriously. And there was
It's not the program that was a joke. It was you taking it as a joke. Is that correct?
Yeah.
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 I mean, if somebody went in there and they had fully surrendered, it could be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there was a couple people in there that we had planned that the day I got off paper, we were gonna go get high again. And it wasn't like smoking weed or drinking. We were gonna go smoke some meth together. And then I was at the Stevens Center. I got thrown in jail by Pot County. They threw me in jail for lying. And
In between the 30-day and the Stevens Center?
no, so it took me about 65 days to phase up to phase 2 at the Stevens Center.
Okay.
I had a hard time following the rules, I
Yeah.
guess.
Happens.
Yeah. And so,
You're breaking old habits, right?
yeah.
I mean, you'd been breaking the rules since you were 12.
yeah. And I had a boy issue. That was what it was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because there's no fraternizing
right,
at
yeah.
the Stevens Center.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's hard when all the classes are
Co-ed.
co-ed.
But you
And-
live on separate floors.
Right. And you're supposed to stay separate from them.
Yeah.
But it's hard. So, anyway, drug court threw me in jail for lying once I got to phase 2.
So you got in trouble at Stevens Center. They notify probation officer? Something like that?
Well, I quit a job,
Okay.
and so I lied to my PO
About quitting the job.
about quitting the job. So I really didn't get in trouble at the Stevens Center. It was more I just lied about it. And so they threw me in jail. And when I was in jail, I seen some people I used to use with, and I was sober. I had like 4 or 5 months sober. I don't really want to say I was in recovery at that point.
Yeah.
I was just sober. Like I was clear.
You hadn't done anything.
Yeah. And my mind was kind of clear, and I didn't like what I seen. I didn't like,
The other people where you saw them.
Right,
And then
where-
you're thinking that's what
yeah, I'm like, oh, I look like that, or like, ooh, I don't want that. I don't want to be that person anymore. And so when I got out of jail, I really surrendered. Like I fully surrendered at that point, and I got a sponsor, and I started working the steps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We see 3 pivotal days, in my opinion, over the course of this story. 2 weeks before you're arrested, when you're asking for help from a higher power.
Yeah.
The day you were arrested, come into our program for 60 days, and then go to jail.
Mhm.
That's that final, okay, now I'm no longer faking it till I make it. I'm not making plans with friends to go get high once I get out.
Right.
You came back, fully surrendered. What happened then? I mean, was it just sky's the limit?
I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
I really started working my steps with my sponsor. I started calling this girl, I should say lady. She was a couple years older than me. She had 8 or 9 years sober. The difference was she was an alcoholic. She didn't have any drug history or anything like that. She was more of just an alcoholic, but there was this thing about her. She came into the Stevens Center for a meeting, and there's just like call it weird, but there's just like this weird glow about her that just turned me on to her, and I was just like, oh my God, there's something about her, and I want her to be my sponsor. So I just called her, and we started working the steps. I told her my 4th step. And after I did that, like it had no hold on me anymore. I started letting go of my past and all that shame and guilt. And it's like I almost have 4 years sober, and I still hold on to some of that. Some of it creeps up, more of it with my kids than anything. But I started becoming like more of an open book, started making amends. I don't want to say it's been easy because it's rough. This past year has been hard. I'm trying to do adult things. I finally moved out of sober living, bought a car, bought a house, adulting thing. But I've went through some trial and tribulations, so it's not been easy. There's been times where I've thought about just going and screwing it all up again.
Yep. What do you do in that moment?
I call my sponsor.
Yep.
Or
visit a counselor here.
Visit a counselor. I talk to the other case manager because he is in recovery himself, and so he kind of helps me get out of it. If my sponsor doesn't answer, I have friends. I have people I can talk to, go to a meeting.
So fascinating to me still to this day that we have, over 30 of our around 70 to 80 employees are former clients, a lot of them dealing with addiction in their own right. And I think that's what keeps this place moving forward.
Yeah. Is
the ability to relate to our clients and the ability to see them through a recovery program, but then it doesn't end there. Right. It's like it's aftercare services that really keep people sober. Because you want to, that graduation date, that's that milestone that you've been working towards.
Yep.
And then there's this moment where it's kind of like, I'm no longer accountable to anybody but myself.
Right.
And so you build in new habits, which is calling the sponsor. And fortunately for you to have a job here to where you're surrounded with the same people that helped you get sober.
Yeah.
So cool to me.
Yeah.
So cool to me.
I'm still really connected with the drug court team as well.
That's nice.
I still go back to court. We have a alumni group that still puts on car washes and stuff for them too. So
because there's a graduation day for drug court, right? There's an actual day of graduation.
Yep.
So talk to me about the way you felt when you graduated Stevens Center Hero Program.
Oh man, the day I graduated Stevens Center, Sharon told me I couldn't graduate.
Oh wow.
And it was so funny.
Director of the program. That's not just anybody. That's the head honcho there.
It was funny because my sister had picked me up from work, and everyone was standing in the way, so she couldn't pull in. So I rolled down the window, and I sat on the window. I came out the window, and I said, move. And I went inside, and Sharon goes, Brooke, you can't graduate. That was illegal. And I was like, oh, let me call my mom. And she's like, Brooke, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I was going to say, like illegal to lean out the window?
No, I climbed out the window and sat on the window. So I was out the car, I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, my PO's coming, my mom's coming, my sponsor's coming. Yeah. So she freaked me out a little bit, but it was an amazing feeling because the first treatment center I went to, I didn't graduate. I only lasted like 16 days.
Are we talking years before or?
Like maybe just a year before.
A year before the arrest and everything?
No, it was the April after the arrest.
Okay.
So I got kicked out of that one for fraternizing.
And they sent you there originally for drug court?
No, that was DHS.
Gotcha.
Kids case.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once I sworn into drug court, they sent me to the 30-day program. And one of the counselors there told me that I would succeed, but I would plateau and I wouldn't rise above anything. So I was like a little disappointed in that. And so I was like, whatever, I'm going to prove you wrong. So when I graduated the Stevens Center, it was like all good things. And it really made me feel good because at the Stevens Center, you're always welcome back. They never, like Thursday night, alumni can come back and share the meeting. Alumni's welcome back to any meeting, any classes. They can come back and talk to the counselors as long as the counselors aren't busy.
Yep.
And it was an amazing feeling because I've never been welcomed back anywhere before.
Yep.
They're like, you can't come back here ever again.
Yeah.
And at the Stevens Center, they're like, yeah, come back. We'd love to see you. And it was a great feeling because coming from where I came from, nobody ever said anything good about me.
Come on back.
Yeah, and they're like, "Come back."
They're
We
like,
want
don't
you
let
to
the
come
door
back.
hit you. Yeah.
Right. So it was awesome to
That's
have
great.
that. Yeah.
And I do know that I believe we have a policy, you know, you can always come back for the meetings, the alumni groups, and for help.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 6 months' time of no longer being a client, we invite people back to be volunteers.
Yes.
So had you not landed a job, do you think you would have landed back as a volunteer in some form or fashion to try to pay it forward?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would come back every Thursday for the meetings.
Yeah.
I guess I really didn't know a whole lot about the shelter or
Yeah.
PSH or anything like that, or the volunteering aspect of it.
Yep.
But I did come back to the hero side a lot.
Yep.
So,
Good stuff.
yeah.
So, Ryan, do you have any questions, any lingering questions over there?
Nope, not.
I've just got two more.
Okay.
This has been fascinating, Brooke. You're a really good interview. Really great person. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you throughout our time as colleagues. You know, I mean, we're kind of separated by an alley on our campus, but at the same time, we do get to interact from time to time. And I've seen major change, especially in your haircut. I love the new haircut. It looks
It
fantastic.
needs cut again.
It looks fantastic.
Okay.
And you're always smiling. You're a source of positivity here. And I wouldn't know it to look at you that you may still be struggling. And I don't think you're faking it. I think that it's important to you to show people that you are still happy no matter what's going on. No matter if you're having to call a sponsor, you wouldn't know it. So it's a joy to have you on campus. And that's important here at Stevens Center is positivity.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people surrounding us that are our clients that, you know, they're questioning where they're at in life. They're questioning if they want to wake up the next day type of thing. And a simple smile goes a long way. You know, we see a lot of volunteer groups here, especially young, like a Boy Scout group or something. And before we go down to the shelter, we always tell them, like, you just be sure to smile. Don't be afraid of eye contact, you know, and don't be afraid to smile because that might change somebody's day. So when you're
Right.
doing that, you're still having an impact outside of your case management roles. So I want you to know that. If there's one thing you could say right now, there could be somebody struggling with addiction or some sort of issue. Just what if there's anything you could say to them, what would you say?
There's so much.
I mean, you've already said a lot, but you could look them dead in the eye, and you could give them hope.
You're not alone. There's a lot of people out there.
Because you didn't know any of us till you got here.
Mm-mm. And I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how. So there's a lot of people that struggle with it, with mental health and addiction. And I didn't know a lot of that until I got here. But if you just reach out and ask for that help, it's there. And don't be ashamed of it.
And it really is a family type atmosphere here, especially for the Hero program. I know it's a very tight knit group.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a family?
Yes.
And how incredible is it that before 2015 you didn't know any of these family members?
It's amazing. It is.
Now for the hard question. We always end the episodes with this question, and it's not difficult. This doesn't have to apply to Stevens Center, even though it's the tagline, even though it's the namesake of our show. What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you, Brooke?
Oh, man. It Help Hope Heroes. It means to me.
A little closer to the microphone.
Well, I'm still thinking here.
That's fine.
That's a really hard question because it's so powerful.
Yeah. And that could be the answer, is that is powerful.
It is powerful. I would probably have to say it's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help Hope Heroes is powerful.
Yeah.
And we can settle with that. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a good answer.
Yep.
That's the point of our tagline. That's the point of what we do here.
It's my final answer.
Good. And it's a great answer. There's no right or wrong, and we love it. Thank you so much for being willing to be open. I know it can't be easy to share the way that you did today. It means a lot to us, and I think it'll mean a lot to people that are listening. this is really, truly a good way to pay it forward. Thanks for being you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Brooke. We are here with the Help Hope Heroes podcast,
Stevens Center, for me, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
recorded live at a homeless shelter.
I basically reinvented myself with the Stevens Center.
Our clients are the homeless, the addicted, those in poverty.
We fight the good fight.
Tear down some stigmas.
They taught me those life skills that I didn't have.
What does Help Hope Heroes mean to you?
If you come to the Stevens Center, you will be changed in a really good way.